This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Magmageddon, and we are back with another team game. It is going to be a 3v3, mostly H2O players. The only guy who I'm not sure if he is H2O is djangoo, not django, but djangoo is going to be playing as the Blue Soviets, and his ally is going to be the allied GoDoFWaR, and also going to be IamLikeThOR. And then on the top right side, we do have the orange Phoenix, and then GTX 480 as the Cyan Empire, and of course as the red Soviets we do have JeJe. And all of these players that I did not recognize, I went ahead and shadowbricked, and I was able to find exactly nothing of any help. So we do have the triple expand, or rather the triple refinery startup, going to be out of GTX 480, and JeJe not going to be doing quite the same thing, which I don't know if it's supposed to be pronounced JeJe or JeJe or GG, as it is JeJe. And my gosh, the names some of you people come up with. Both oil derricks are going to be grabbed there by Phoenix. And that was a dog jumping out of the water twice like some sort of silly dog. I don't even know what he was doing. But we do have the first terror drone going to be out for djangoo. Get these names right, since it is so important, and actually some pretty heavy losses there of the bears for JeJe. And never mind, he's coming back. He's going to be able to kill a couple of dogs. Not going to be that big of a deal since it is a 3v3, but we do not quite have the early expand just yet out of IamLikeThOR. He's going to be going for some infantry, it looks like, first. However, GoDoFWaR going to be doing the same thing, lots of infantry. He does enjoy his infantry tactics in team games, but we do have, interestingly enough, IamLikeThOR is like, well, I'll just go ahead and throw down 2 refineries almost. Okay, that's his multi-gunner turret. Going to be throwing down an extra refinery using the build radius of his ally before taking his own third refinery, although he is going to be going for a relatively fast airfield. Of course, that's not a fast airfield in a 1v1, but in a 3v3, it's like everybody enjoys going for mass infantry. Lots of Tengus going to be out for GTX 480, going to be able to take down a couple of sickles there, or nearly take down a couple of sickles there. However, GoDoFWaR is going to be able to eliminate the Tengu for GTX 480 with some pretty good surrounding there by those peacekeepers, able to split them quite efficiently. djangoo going to be able to call the retreat and run away from Phoenix, while on the south side we do have the bear coming in, which will be doing exactly nothing, although we do have the naval yard on the ground, which means we could see some Akula submarines to try and harass the water expansions, which unfortunately for the team right side is only going to be djangoo on the top side, so the Akulas will have to go quite some distance. He could get some stingrays out to try and do some land damage, and then of course transitioning to those juggernauts is always a good idea. Alright, not always a good idea. You shouldn't necessarily rush to juggernauts in every 1v1, although if you do it and you make it work, please do hit me up with that replay, because I would love to see against a top player, a juggernaut rush, or a dreadnought rush work. That would be pretty awesome. GTX 480 going to be pulling back his Tengus for some repairs, really able to get this triple refinery start to work. He needs to make sure that he takes a 4th sometime soon. GoDoFWaR going to be able to go ahead and take I believe that's his 4th for himself, and going to be picking off, or trying to pick off, some of those Tengus there from GTX, while we do have the MCV moving to the front line as well, most likely going to be able to try and secure that 4th refinery. And so at least I think everyone does have at minimum 3 refineries. Taking a quick look around the minimap, and I think that is indeed so. Phoenix going to be kind of setting up on the front line. Will he decide to drop a armor facility on the front line as well? I should think that would be a pretty good idea. However, the Tengu is going to be able to do some damage, not going to be able to do a tremendous amount. They are going to be able to take down one of the sickles. However, with the Vindicator support, they will be able to take down a couple of these hammer tanks. However, the Bullfrog is able to claim one of the Vindicators there from Phoenix. So unfortunately for Phoenix, he will be losing some units there as GoDoFWaR claiming a couple of more Vindicators before being forced to run away. Going to be able to split his bombs perfectly to take down a maximum number of Tengus, so GTX isn't going to be too happy about that. However, the multi-gunner turret going to be thrown down there from IamLikeThOR, going to be able to hold off these Akula subs for at least a couple of more seconds. However, as soon as Akula subs decide to engage and commit there, they will be able to stomp down at least that one multi-gunner turret. One Tengu could be getting picked off there, but GTX does pull it back, and we do have the forward MCV placement. Is this just going to be giving his allies build radius to throw down some, to effectively do a turret push of some sort, whether it be a Tesla push or just multi-gunner turrets. It could allow his allies to throw down some defenses. He's going to be going for a multi-gunner turret. We'll have to see if these players are able to coordinate with each other. However, we do have GoDoFWaR going to be moving out, and I really like the use of IFVs because they're so good versus, well, some ground units. They're good at taking down and doing just some extra damage on the ground, but then they do so much better as soon as the Empire player tries to transform into the air and tries to deal that damage in the air. So a good move there, and we do have assault destroyers, at least one of them out. The black hull armor is going to be put into effect from IamLikeThOR, who's got plenty of Vindicators out on the map. And we do have hydrofoils and dolphins, a nice attack force there. Of course, you can use the hydrofoil to either take down air targets or lock down ground targets and deny their ability to actually do any damage. While on the north side, we do have the cryo shot going to be going down there for Phoenix. While he's taking a lot of damage from these hammer tanks, he splits just perfectly, allowing those two hammer tanks to be eliminated completely. However, the hammer tanks needs to go ahead and eliminate this MCV as soon as they finish off that Striker VX, which they do quite well. And we'll have to see, is GTX going to get the positioning that he needs? He needs to get over there with some tsunami tanks, but how does he leave his base when he's got this much pressure out front, just waiting around as GoDoFWaR is like, well, you're going to move out. As soon as you move out, I'm going to go ahead and take you down. I'm going to go ahead and smack down your base. However, the MCV does have to run for Phoenix. GoDoFWaR needs to go ahead and move in here. He could do some pretty heavy damage even with just his IFVs. He could probably sneak by here and do some pretty serious damage. He needs to make sure that he doesn't get caught behind enemy lines without any backup plan. But Phoenix is going to be losing the armor facility. Here come the Vindicators again, splitting the bombs exactly how he needs, so he's not got those on one control group, at least going to be splitting them up into two control groups. A couple of Bullfrogs going to be able to take out some of GoDoFWaR's Apollos there, as unfortunately GoDoFWaR will be dropping down some of those units, forming up with a additional refinery that brings his total up to 6, I do believe, plus the one oil derrick there as he enters low power mode. However, the tsunami tanks with the point defense drones should be able to do a pretty good amount of damage here. Are they going to be able to activating that armor ability to crush some of the infantry? They will be able to crush some of the infantry. However, more Vindicator strikes going to be moving out. The hammer tank numbers are just too many for GTX 480. He's going to be actually getting leeched basically to death, as GoDoFWaR and also djangoo are going to be joining together in forces. GoDoFWaR going to be rushing forward. He will be able to take down one of the power plants, entering that low power mode, unfortunately, for GTX 480. He does have some tank busters on the front line there. Will he have the control to really be able to do the damage? GoDoFWaR will not be getting the crushes that he needs, unfortunately, for GoDoFWaR. While on the north side, djangoo going to be pushing into the base of Phoenix, and GoDoFWaR going to be pushing further into the base of GTX 480. Perfect shrinks there, allowing those tsunami tanks to do essentially absolutely nothing, as one more Vindicator does get taken out there. However, this is not going to be enough to possibly stop this push from GoDoFWaR. He's got the cryocopters on the front line, and this could be very, very bad news for GTX 480. djangoo going to be pulling away from that cryo shot as well, controlling quite well there, as an additional couple of these chopper VXs will likely go down. However, the majority of the ground army has been eliminated. One more tsunami tank will be popping out here. It is going to be a double vet, now completely heroic and getting more and more crushes. It may actually be able to take down that Guardian tank. Yes, it is able to take down the Guardian tank and completely save GTX 480. However, not as much can be said for his northern ally, Phoenix, who's going to be getting cleaned up here by quite a few hammer tanks out of djangoo. And was the MCV taken out? No, it was not. We do have assault destroyers now on the field, while on the south side, this expansion still stands, but does the MCV? That is going to be the real question here. I'm not entirely sure if the MCV was able to escape. Yes, it was able to escape, and likely will be able to establish an expansion here if GoDoFWaR allows that. GoDoFWaR in such a strong position, though, and the naval forces, which is really just a bunch of bullfrogs and a couple of twin blades, going to be going for djangoo's back door, which is exactly what we want to see. So when you see your opponent moving out into your ally's base, if you can, you go ahead and hit your opponent in their base. And Phoenix, unfortunately, going to be forced to sell everything off and move exclusively to the water, which there aren't a whole lot of water expansions left to be taken. GoDoFWaR going to be joining up with his allies in the north to try and smash down Phoenix once and for all, I should think, although he is going to be pulling back to try and help deal with these bullfrogs as well. Couple of hammer tanks here could be getting taken out by the twin blades. However, they are going to be going instead. Oh, actually, a couple of these bullfrogs could be getting eliminated, as bullfrogs are quite easy targets for those terror drones, and also going to be easy targets for the hammer tanks as well. While on the south side, we do have Dreadnoughts out on the field, able to take out that one refinery of IamLikeThOR. So IamLikeThOR not going to be in the best position once those Dreadnoughts really start working away at his forces. Also not going to be in a good position because twin blades are just oh so good. and good control there. Going to be able to catch the majority of these Riptides before too much damage is done. Switching over that Ore Collector to that adaptive armor mode just to make sure he doesn't take too much damage. However, this is what we like to see, some good unit mixing here from Phoenix, and also GTX 480 mixing in a couple of those Assault Destroyers just to deal extra damage. And I think that was actually a Sickle which got caught there. However, again, good unit mixing by the team left side, although we do have going to be calling in here. Is it actually, what is that actually going to be? It is going to be possibly Orbital Bombardment. No, it actually is going to be a perfect Delta Dual Airstrike there, as he does drop the Toxins directly on top of that army. And let's go ahead and turn on the health bars to see the damage being done there. It's not a tremendous amount since it is going to be the hammer tanks, but on top of that, going to be calling in some more orbital bombardment as well, and freezing just absolutely everything, so GTX 480 can be super effective with his tsunamis. Unfortunately, he already switched them over to that armor mode, and so that the nanomachines provide those repairs, but unfortunately, they don't actually do any damage. The damage output was being done by the tank busters, and unfortunately, for GTX 480, he simply wasn't able to do a tremendous amount of damage. However, it looks like IamLikeThOR is going to be taking quite a bit of damage from those Dreadnoughts, and unfortunately, this Assault Destroyer will be slowly but surely eliminated by that Terror Drone, which could go ahead and take out a couple of more of these units. GoDoFWaR is going to be taking a little bit of expansion damage here, which is not that big of a deal considering he has so many expansions. He doesn't have too many units out on the field, though. A couple of Guardian tanks on the front line going to be able to possibly save his expansion. GTX 480 is controlling pretty well, though, and with the power of that multi-gunner turret from Phoenix, he may be able to hold this line. Bullfrogs are on the front line. I'm not entirely sure why he needs to go ahead and pull those back. They are going to be absorbing some of the shots here for the hammer tank. However, this hammer tank is so close to being killed. GTX 480 going to be going instead for the Bullfrog first, allowing that hammer tank to just get a little bit closer. However, the Terror Drone is the real problem here, as the hammer tanks are doing a whole lot of damage. The Terror Drone is going to be able to lock down that one tsunami tank, and GTX 480 constantly taking so many punches from this team left side. GoDoFWaR going to be able to not able to do a whole lot, but he's providing the build radius and the base support for the other players to go ahead and launch their attacks, as djangoo does go ahead and pull back there. And it does look like Phoenix once again up against the ropes. djangoo going to be able to do some damage. However, that was a terrible transform on that Chopper VX, as he was getting basically completely eliminated by the Bullfrogs there. But most of the Bullfrogs for djangoo have been eliminated, so I guess there's Bullfrogs here from GeJe, but he is unfortunately not going to be able to have anything to go ahead and shoot down the MCV of his opponent. One Bullfrog does get eliminated there. He controls well enough to keep the additional Bullfrogs alive. And I guess that one single Chopper VX is really what's going to be able to take down this Conyard for djangoo, or rather allowing djangoo to lose his Conyard, while in the south, that is exactly where the army of GoDoFWaR is, taking out the super reactor of GeJe, who is going to be forced back, or JeJe, as I think that may sound a little bit worse, but that is okay. And one airfield does go down there. He's being forced mostly out onto the water. His Bullfrogs and Twin Blades have been pretty darn effective. However, can he find a sweet spot to hit in this army? Does he have any more Dreadnoughts? He's got one Dreadnought, which is fully heroic and has been for quite some time now, but he's going to be losing his entire main base, which means GoDoFWaR may very well be able to expand down to the south. However, the Twin Blade's going to be heading out and should be able to claim at least one of these refineries from IamLikeThOR. And GTX 480 has held the line once again with the help of GeJe and Phoenix. So they're going to be holding on, albeit barely, and barely able to rebuild here as well, as he wasn't completely smashed out of this game, although the team right side is certainly on the back foot. GoDoFWaR going to be taking quite a bit of damage here. The MCV could be under some serious fire, as we have tank busters and tsunamis both on the front line, going to be able to deal with some of these buildings and units, and the Cryocopter going to be taking damage from the Chopper VXs. There goes the MCV. GoDoFWaR taking tremendous amounts of damage, and team right side is definitely still in this game, as they could be taking out some of the team left side guys. However, no, GoDoFWaR reforms his army, and he says, hey, you know what, JeJe, I will deal with you another day and another time, as the Cryo Blast does go down there from GoDoFWaR. I do believe that was his Cryo Blast. Although I suppose it could have been IamLikeThOR, who has been mostly relegated to the north side. He does still have his Conyard. However, these Twin Blades and Bullfrogs are so darn effective, particularly in this match. djangoo going to be able to force him away, and I keep pronouncing the D for whatever reason. Djangoo, or rather not Django, but going to be able to force down yet another refinery of GoDoFWaR. goodness, a couple of Twin Blades being caught out of position there, and just as I finished saying how effective that Twin Blade army has been for JeJe, it basically gets eliminated there by djangoo. Yeah, Twin Blades, Terror Drone's going to be able to get inside of these Bullfrogs since there's no Twin Blades to shoot down the Terror Drones. However, on the front line, we do have a ton of Tsunami tanks, but they're basically just absorbing shots, while the Tank Busters are the actual damage dealers in the back in this fully heroic Tank Buster. However, the Chopper VX is going to be rushing all over these units, and they're not really doing anything. They're providing fire support, which means if any Chopper VXs try to freeze or shrink down this army, they are going to be dealing with some serious opposition. As you can see, those Chopper VXs, despite the fact that they're on the ground, and our Striker VX is able to do a huge amount of damage to the Cryocopters, and that poor IFV getting eliminated oh so quickly by the combined forces of GTX 480 and Phoenix, who is going to be able to take down the armor facility of GoDoFWaR, who was looking like oh so strong. And then he just got stabbed in the back at least a little bit there by the Twin Blade Bullfrog combo of JeJe, who JeJe, I wasn't thinking he was going to be doing a whole lot in this game. He could be doing more with this Dreadnought hitting the backs of these players' bases, as they really do not have any defense against that water, and that water is definitely adding a huge part, definitely adding up to be a huge part of this game, as often you do see the water completely neglected in many 1v1 matches, but in this particular 3v3 match, it is such a big part of the deal. GoDoFWaR being pushed completely back, GTX 480 doing tremendous amounts of damage and making tremendous headway against his opponent, but djangoo is not out of this yet, and neither is IamLikeThOR. He's got a ton of infantry, and while he cannot contend out on the water with his infantry, he can do tremendous amounts of damage and hold the line on the front line, calling in the Tank Busters as good GTX 480. That is what he needs. He needs some extra firepower with his army. Magmageddon being fired off here, but oh, the perfect pullback there. Not so much the perfect pullback there. Ooh, going to be losing a double vet and a fully heroic IFV, although not if the shots do get off on them. I do not know what that was. I wasn't quite paying enough attention. I was distracted by the Magmageddon. However, one of the IFVs does get taken out. Both of them do get taken out, which means those heroic IFV and the veteran as well will be getting eliminated, or rather the elite, not the veteran. But it is going to be that double vet, and was that just support powers, as GoDoFWaR once again going to have to move his MCV. The combined forces of IamLikeThOR and djangoo going to be moving in here. The Magmageddon does sound off, and it is going to be allowing this possible the freeze down of that Mecha Bay, but I do not think it'll actually be happening. The double barracks not really going to be able to do a whole lot. The bear going to be rushing in there and doing some damage. However, with the Bullfrog support here, I do not know if the Twin Blades will be doing anything. No, they do absolutely nothing, and JeJe needs to make sure he goes ahead and pulls back the Bullfrog, since they're not going to be able to do a whole lot in this engagement. The Tesla Coil not even being able to save the base of GTX 480. He's getting completely pushed back. He moves forward with his MCV. He won't be able to get the crushes that he needs, though. It simply will be just frozen down. He might get the crush on one of the hammer tanks. It was fully heroic, and it did get crushed down there. However, oh, here comes the money. Oh, the Desolator strike, completely a perfect strike there, almost getting the perfect hits. But instead, the Magnetic Singularity going to be killing one of those tanks and unlocking down a couple more of the tanks. Great moves there by both of these teams, and this is an incredibly close match, as it's been a back and forth. I think team left side is gaining some momentum, but we've seen team right side hold it so well. GTX 480 Phoenix and JeJe have been working together phenomenally, almost better than djangoo, GoDoFWaR, and IamLikeThOR, which I think have just been a little bit more spot on. It's very hard to tell. However, that Dreadnought being put back to work exactly as he needs to be. However, GTX 480 showing up to save the day and save his base, as there is two fully heroic hammer tanks, but I think they will maybe be eliminated by the fully heroic. Oh, the fully heroic Tsunami gets eliminated. Oh, the help of that Chopper VX. So close this match, with so many opportunities for comebacks. Fortunately for djangoo, he was barely able to hold on there and going to be able to eliminate the majority of the base, but instead there has been some degree of rebuilding for team right side. For the most part, Phoenix is out of this, has been for at least a couple minutes, and now GTX 480 is effectively out of this as well. He's holding on to the last scraps of hope, as he does have a refinery out on the water, and I think that's about it. He does have a refinery for at least a couple of more seconds on land. It will not be very effective. However, he is going to be pretty effective at eliminating some of these units for IamLikeThOR. IamLikeThOR could actually be forced out of this game as well, as he is going to be getting his barracks locked down, and these extra tank busters being added on there. However, oh, it looks like the Dreadnought was taken out there as instant heroic status to that Vindicator. It doesn't even matter if you're like the noob on the team at that point. You take out a heroic Dreadnought and everyone is just praising you as being the best guy ever. And the Bullfrogs could be used to block off nope, never mind. They're not going to be used to block off the escape route of that hammer tank, which is fully heroic, and I don't even know where he's going. He's like, I'm just going to head further and further into enemy territory, doing huge amounts of damage, passing along that elite status to the hammer tank of JeJe, which will then go ahead and turn around, as we do have Chopper VXs heading to the north side. Nope, they're actually going to be turning around. GoDoFWaR going to be reforming his forces as he's taking a huge amount of damage. However, we do have, once again, the combining of the support powers from the left side team, I do believe, as desperately JeJe going to be trying to establish his base, but it will not be enough, as though, no, his refinery did survive, albeit barely, and the infantry going to be reforming for GTX 480 and able to take down that single refinery. There's so little left on the map, and neither one of these teams is really in a super strong position. There's no clear winner here, as either one of these teams could definitely take this match. We'll have to see over the course of the next couple of minutes. There's a Cryogeddon, which is, of course, going to be forcing the engagement directly into the shotguns of those Peacekeepers, which is quite unfortunate for JeJe. That is not where he wanted to be engaging. He could be losing a number of forces here as the Bullfrogs rush to the front line. They're not going to be able to do a huge amount of damage here, as the majority of those units do get eaten up simply by those Tier 1 Peacekeepers. Never have they seemed quite so feared as when they're just eating up those units like their breakfast, and like there's no tomorrow as well. There might also be some hotcakes mixed in there as well, but I don't even know, as GoDoFWaR is just pushing forward with simply infantry and Tier 1 units, making it so effective. Really, the effectiveness being lent from those freezing cryo beams from whatever his name, IamLikeThOR, as there goes the War Factory. Will be getting one-shotted by those Peacekeepers, not something you see very often. I think Team Left Side is maybe going to be able to take this, as GTX 480 has been defeated, and these refineries are just being eliminated one by one oh so quickly by the 5 cryocopters, just allowing everything to be frozen down ridiculously effectively. And this Tier 1 infantry composition is really what is maybe going to be winning the game for GoDoFWaR, and IamLikeThOR joining together in these last few minutes, as djangoo has not been doing a whole lot. A lot of his stuff did get cleaned up there. He does have an MCV on the front line, and he is going to be going ahead and reestablishing himself, grabbing a crane so that he can go ahead and expand extremely quickly just by dropping down his MCV for that build radius, throwing down the refinery, and then moving his MCV on a little bit further. I think this is going to be it, as we do have more and more of these refineries just being eliminated. And out on the water, we do have quite a few naval forces and a serious base here from JeJe, who has just been able to rebuild a huge amount. His MCV is still on the move. However, with this many cryocopters, he's going to be losing pretty much everything out on the land, and it's hard to contend the land if all you have is stuff out on the water, especially since Stingrays just simply are not very good, particularly out on the land. IamLikeThOR needs to make sure that he keeps his units with at least something that can deal some damage, as cryocopters are good, but only when you have something else to go ahead and back them up. And so many cryocopters being used here. I think that'll end up being the saving grace of the Team Left Side. However, they do still have a little bit of contention here from JeJe, as he does have a lot of units, and once they get out onto the water and once they're actually forced to bring some aquatic units, the Akula subs are going to be extremely effective. The cryocopters pulled off the line, the 6 of them going to be hovering over that little ridge right there. However, the crane has been spotted, and this should be it for JeJe. I think technically Phoenix is still in this game. He's got an airfield and a refinery, going to be sending out a Dolphin as well. I guess he's really just holding on to those last bits of hope as they're slowly falling away from his hands. And nothing is worse than getting your MCV trapped by a terror drone while also being eliminated by a terror drone. I'm not entirely sure why the cryocopters are turning around there. They need to go ahead and help finish off the remainder of this base, as Phoenix is the only one left on the right side team, as JeJe leaves the game, and he is going to be getting everything frozen down here. Even the super reactor will not be kept from the wrath of these riptides. MCV once again going to be running, but where are you even going to be running to? There's nowhere left on the map that you can really go. Super Reactor going to be getting eliminated if these Riptides actually turn around and actually do some damage. Dolphin being a hero as well, able to do a huge amount of damage, considering that there's nothing there really to contend any of these units. Oh, that one Dolphin being saved very narrowly there, escaping because all of those Riptides were completely shrunk down to get across the map that much quicker. But that will do it. Phoenix has been defeated, and game over for Team Right Side. So I think all three of our Team Left Side players, not one of them left the game. It was simply GTX 480 Phoenix and not IamLikeThOR, but rather JeJe, who ended up getting kicked out of that match. So a fantastical H2O 3v3 team game, not one that we've seen in a while. And that will do it for this game. This is Sybert signing out.